Alright guys, so in this video I wanted to talk about the never-ending saga that is the Tampa Bay Rays new stadium situation and go over all of the different renderings I could find dating back to 2007. What have the Rays thought of doing? What are all the different renderings? Because I probably have like 14 or 15 different Tampa Bay Rays stadium renderings. But first, I do want to talk about the most recent news. The Tampa Bay Rays owner coming out and saying that it's his belief and very reasonable that he'll have a new stadium deal either in St. Petersburg or Tampa by the end of the year, and that if he doesn't, there's not a deal to be done, basically. So he's saying that, listen, we got to have a deal or else the team is leaving. If Tampa Bay does move, I'm guessing they end up in Nashville. That has always been my prediction on Tampa Bay. Maybe it's Montreal, maybe it's Portland, maybe it's another place. But to me, the Oakland Athletics, I'm not going to say 100% chance, but I'm going to say it's extremely likely the Athletics end up moving to Vegas, and then you would have Tampa Bay either being able to finance one of these stadiums and staying in Tampa or St. Petersburg, or moving, in my opinion, most likely to Nashville. He also says at the end of the day, it's all about ensuring that the team is here throwing out its first pitch in 2028 and then here throwing out its first pitch in 2053. So that's the Rays owner. Of course, not surprising he's going to say that. The Rays right now have no deal, in terms of moving anywhere, so you're not going to alienate your own fan base and try and get a deal to move. Now, when it comes to the different renderings, I believe this is the most recent one. This is kind of like the new Tampa Bay Rays stadium rendering. You can see it's got kind of an interesting little roof there. About 90%, or I would say maybe 80% of these stadium renderings all involve a roof, and it's not surprising. That's just the way Florida is. It's extremely humid, and they have really rogue, weird thunderstorms, which kind of make it hard to have an open-aired stadium, even though it's Florida. You take a look at, the Miami Marlins building a retractable roof. It's basically closed all the time due to the humidity and due to the randomness of the rain situation there. It could be sunny, and then 2 minutes later it's a thunderstorm, then 2 minutes after that it's sunny. I have been to Florida. They do get some weird weather, especially in some areas, but you can just see the different renderings of the newest model of the Rays Stadium. Unfortunately, I could not find an interior picture, but that is the newest one that they're talking about. This one floated around back in 2021. It's kind of a bigger circular silver dome. This is another one I couldn't get any renderings on. You can see there's it's right next to water. It looks like a little inlet there. So I like the look of that one. That is nice. I'm not sure if it's retractable. So guys, when it comes to the Rays interiors, all of these, they look like extension minor league parks. The seating is just so small. Everything is so small. And that has to do with, the Rays' current attendance situation. Is some of it, Tropicana Field being in a horrible location, being in St. Petersburg, yeah, that's some of it. But there's also the idea that there's really not a big demand for baseball in Florida. You take a look at the Miami Marlins attendance problems, the Rays, both two of three bottom teams in attendance, along with the Athletics. There's just not a large demand. So basically all of these renderings, the interiors, the upper deck is extremely small, which is something that's kind of a trend we're seeing with the MLB anyways, the upper decks being very small, but the capacity of these are all 35,000 or lower, and I saw a few that were around 30,000 just in general. So this is a really cool rendering that was done. This is a newer one, probably 2021. It's in the shape of a stingray, and it's kind of a, big overhang that covers the entire every seating section. The Buffalo Bills have something similar, and it does look like it's open air. There is that. This is another newer one. You can see there's also kind of a ray shape to it. It's also got like a glass dome, which is interesting. All of these, or most of them, having some form of roof. And then there's some older ones. This one dating all the way back to 2007. Actually found this via Wikipedia. If you search for the Rays ballpark, this is the rendering that shows up. But this didn't get any financing. This was designed, again, all the way back in 2007, right next to water. And it does have an interesting, like, sail type roof design. That would be a retractable roof. It reminds me, with all those cables, a little bit of Olympic Stadium and what they tried to do. But I do think that roof does look pretty cool. And then the interior of it, very minimalistic, very small. You know, not a lot of seating. This is another potential stadium that was thought of back in around, I think, 2012. This one came about. You can see it looks a little bit like a spaceship, and it looks like it's surrounded by almost resort type apartments. I'm guessing that's just for the rendering and stuff. But yeah, there's another one. I mean, there's just so many of these. They pop up all over the place. St. Petersburg releases 7 proposals to redesign Tropicana field site. That was back about 2 years ago in 2021. So yeah, I mean, there's just proposal and rendering after rendering. And I do think, you know, because this is something that keeps happening, the attendance is not good. Maybe some of it is the ballpark location. I know people keep complaining about it being in St. Petersburg. It's too far away. The drive is really bad. Also, Tropicana Field, we know it's terrible. It's not going to really draw in many people. I'm sure if they were able to get a new stadium and they put it in a better location, you would see a little bit of an attendance uptick, but is it really worth it as opposed to moving it maybe to a bigger market, with more of a hunger for supporting a local team like possibly Nashville, or I don't know. I know all the, the trendy spots on where the team could potentially move is like Nashville and Montreal and Portland and Vegas, but I mean, I think Oakland is pretty much, not that they're guaranteed to go to Vegas, but if Vegas gets a team, it's going to be the Athletics. Let's just be honest. It just makes too much sense. We saw what happened with the Raiders already. And then this is kind of an interesting one. Looks like some type of glass wall. And this wasn't even like a real rendering. They released a bunch of them, and this was just one of them that showed up. It wasn't really a big one. But the most recent one that we did see, you guys can see it right there, kind of a canopy almost, and we'll have to see what they end up doing. But the general vibe with a potential Rays new stadium is it's going to be small, and it is going to probably seat around 32,000. Tropicana Field current capacity is 25,000 with the upper deck closed. If they open the upper deck, it is around, and they take off all the tarps. Believe it or not, Tropicana Field, I believe, can seat right around 42,000. Is Tropicana Field really that bad? Rays home ranked worst MLB stadium. Well, no, it's not the worst MLB stadium. That's the Coliseum. But distinctly, yes, Tropicana Field is the second worst stadium in the MLB. But you can see the Rays owner expects a new ballpark deal by the end of the year. And if it doesn't happen by the end of the year, it seems like this is kind of a threat that the Rays could be moving, because this is something that keeps getting prolonged. And what are they doing? It's new rendering after new rendering. At some point, something has to give. And it looks like the owner is finally saying, listen, let's get a new deal done so we can actually develop a new stadium and get out of this dump. And if it doesn't happen, I'm moving the team. That's what it sounds like to me. We'll have to see what ends up happening, but I did have a bunch of these different renderings that I saved up because I was going to do a video on all the different renderings and stuff, but with this news, kind of an update, it's looking like we're going to get some significant news on the Tampa Bay Rays getting a new stadium or possibly moving in the coming months before the year 2024. So we'll have to see about that. The most realistic one, again, this was the most recent one. I would say it's 1 or 2 right now. and I'll put both of the photos up. Both of them are, looks like this one is just a strict dome, which kind of is something that I would really not want. But listen, you can understand them not wanting a retractable roof when you look at what's happening with the Marlins. Again, they've got a retractable roof, but it's basically closed 95% of the time due to the humidity. So is there really much of a point of even doing that if it's going to be closed 95% of the time? I don't know. If you're going to have a dome roof stadium that's fixed, you need to have a lot of natural light be let in. That's one of the things that stadium developers are really realizing, because otherwise you're going to get that really tacky kind of damp feel to it that a lot of domes without natural light, like Tropicana Field, they kind of have that atmosphere to them. So we're looking at a potential new stadium, and we'll see if this gets updated with Tampa Bay. They're either, looks like by the end of the year, it's either going to be a new stadium in place with a deal, or possibly moving to Nashville. So guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.